you're right. He can play mediocre this season. The Eagles aren't able to find the avenue to get better, and they run it back, and we're in the same spot. He still has that luxury of playing time. And all of a sudden, if the light goes on and clicks and then he plays well, magically, um, could win the job again. I just think that's very unlikely. After two full, that remember where we would be. That's two full seasons as a starting quarterback, and all of a sudden it's going to click in year three if it didn't click that well in year two. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not happened in the past. It's possible.
But I had 13 that I was very confident about. I said, who's the 14th? Is Jalen Hurts going to be one of those top 13 players? And you just clued us in that is the case. There are some good feelings about Jalen Hurts around the league. And, yeah, if you got him in your top 13 Eagles, that's not bad, Johnny Mac. You must have some confidence in
we did it. Remember, this is I was a little bit lower on Jalen than Ed. Ed was a little bit higher. Don't have the voting in front of me. So, I mean, either way, he's a top 20 player. I think I might have had him at 17. Eddie was a little bit higher. And I always go NBC Sports Philadelphia. We are doing our list, which is the best pure football players as I describe it. Their list is most important.
Important, right?
And on their list, Jalen's going to be number one. I don't know that for a fact. Dave was on the show, Dave Zangaro. It kind of foreshadowed it, which makes sense to me. He is the most important player to the Philadelphia Eagles, as the quarterback mainly is on every team. Good, bad, indifferent. They're the most important part of it. So it is a little bit different. But I think that importance is kind of baked in a little bit to where, I that's a little bit high for me, but that's where he ended up on the list, and we'll see if he lives up to the billing. But either way, 13, 17, wherever you have him, somewhere in that range, I think that's where Jalen Hurts should be, and hopefully gets better and improves. And next year we're talking about this list because I have Jordan Davis at 18. If Jordan Davis turns out to be what I think he's going to be, 18 is going to look quaint next year at this time. He's going to be a top 10 guy, and we'll see. It's all projection. Jalen's got to get better, but yeah, he's certainly a big part of this team, and he's a good football player. I think the question is how good, and that's I've got this weird narrative over the weekend, Jody. I don't know because you had so many shifts. I'm starting to see the Eagles are going to have difficulty moving on from Jalen Hurts anyway. So, no, they're not. That I don't agree with, not at all. And people are starting to look at, the Eagles are going to be pretty good. The Saints are going to be pretty good. Those are going to be mid-round picks. They can't get up to get Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. A couple things about that. Maybe you're right. Maybe they're not able to get back up at the top of the draft, but there's also a number of good quarterbacks that are going to be in this draft. It's not going to be a 2-quarterback draft. And I just happen to be, and I wrote about this on JAKIBSports.com, Jody.
Yeah.
I happen to get Pro Football Network's mock draft, and not our guy, Ian Cummings, but Cam Malore, one of their other draft guys. He had 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. Had the kid from Kentucky, Will Levis, who transferred from Penn State. And fourth one, our old friend Spencer Rattler's back in the mix after transferring to South Carolina. So he had 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. Then I started looking around. There's a kid from Florida. There's a kid from Miami. There's a kid from Stanford, I believe, that all might be top 2, depending on how they play. We've seen it go positive. We've seen it go negative. Spencer Rattler's a perfect example.
Exactly.
A lot of people said he might be the number 1 overall pick. He's benched. He has to transfer to South Carolina. Now he's back in the mix again. some of these guys are probably not going to live up to the hype, but other ones probably are going to live up to the hype. And, can you get into the 8 to 10 range to draft a quarterback? Hell yeah. Why not?
They can, but will a quarterback be worthy of going in that spot? The only two players that I feel tremendously strong about are Young and Stroud. I think there's a big drop off after the first two. As far as it was last year, Kenny Pickett all the way at number 20 and then the next quarterback off the board in the third round? No, I don't think there'll be as big a drop off, but I really do think the two young quarterbacks, two best quarterbacks will go no further than 2 out of the top 4 picks. And they may very well go 1-2, depending on who has those picks. And if the team that has those picks need a quarterback, I don't think there's any question. They'll be the first pick and the second pick. But can the Eagles get into position to trade for one of those first 2 picks? They did it with Carson Wentz. How he's shown the ability to be able to get it done before.
Yeah.
Can he do it again? We're so far from getting there, and the teams that are going to finish, and it's very difficult to speculate. But if you're the guy who's mock draft you're looking at has Spencer Rattler going in the top 10. Whoa, I will tremendously disagree with that. There's a reason why he needed to get out of Dodge.
Yeah, well, the Oklahoma kid, I forget his name. You probably remember, Joe. He's really talented. But now he transferred to USC.
But he's not even draft eligible. He was a legitimate freshman this year. So he's got to stay both this upcoming season and one more before he ever becomes eligible.
Yeah. No, what I was saying though, no, he's not. Yeah, he's not eligible for the draft. What I was saying, he didn't get benched for any, mediocre player.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, I get the point.
He got benched for a top. Yeah, I think it was the number 1 overall recruit in the country. And I apologize. I'll look up his name.
Williams.
And he transferred with Lincoln Riley, went to Southern California. So, I hear what you're saying about Spencer Rattler, and we got to see it. But if we see it, I mean, this is the same kid that people are saying is going to be a top overall pick, top 5 pick. He's got talent, so we'll see how it shakes out. Things have to shake out. We saw it with Zach Wilson. Nobody was talking about Zach Wilson. All of a sudden, he's the 3rd pick in the draft. It happens both ways.
Right.
Somebody had Carson Strong as the top pick in the draft at this time last year. The Eagles got him as an undrafted free agent. Sam Howell, 5th round pick. Spencer Rattler, as I mentioned, had to transfer. So it can go positive. It can go negative. My only point is the whole thing is the Eagles will be in position to get a quarterback if they want to get a quarterback. And that's what Howie Roseman did by pushing back the year, trading 1 first-round pick to next year's draft. So he's got 2 to start. And remember, this is the part where I think people forget. If the Eagles are looking for a quarterback, that means they underachieved pretty much, not overachieved. Look, if they're in the bottom 20s, they're not going to want a quarterback because they're going to have a good football team, and Jalen Hurts is going to have a good season, and they're going to say, all right, let's build around Jalen Hurts. If they're 15, 14, 13, 12, 11 because they didn't have a good season, then they're in a better position to launch. Remember, people seem to forget. You brought it up, Jody. Carson Wentz. They started at 13.
Right.
They leapfrogged to 8, I believe. Then they leapfrogged up to 2 from there. If they have the season to start out where they have the 13th pick, they're going to be able to get a quarterback.
Here's where you and I part ways, and I readily admit that I part ways with most Eagle fans at this point, because yes, there are some that are gung-ho about Jalen, and it's going to be a great year, and the Eagles are going to extend him because that's how Howie Roseman does his business. He's usually ahead of the curve at these type things. It's going to be expensive. Get used to it, Eagle fans. It's going to be $30 million or more, but that's the way it's going to go. Maybe. And you're saying that if he has a bad year, fear not, Howie Roseman will figure out a way to get into a position to draft a quarterback and or use those 2 draft picks to play in the veteran quarterback market, maybe through a trade. Maybe. The place that I think it can end more than anything else is Jalen Hurts has an okay year. He shows a little bit more improvement. But are the Eagles ready to go down the 30, 35, $40 million extension range? Not necessarily, because he doesn't wow anybody. He's good. He's solid. He is what he was last year. Again, this year, they give him more weapons. All right, he throws for some more yards, but he runs for less. I think the Eagles can push kick the can down the road one more year. That they say, guess what, Jalen? We're going to ask you to come in and prove it again. That we're just going to run out the 4th year of your rookie deal and go from there. Because here's the reason why I think that's more of a possibility than most. Did they try and attempt to get Deshaun Watson this year, John?
Yes and no, but
no,
yes.
It's either a yes or a no. Did they attempt to get Deshaun Watson?
They wanted the player. They wanted the player.
So the answer is yes. Did they seriously inquire on Russell Wilson?
Yes.
And were ready to do what it took to get him, at least via a trade?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Who's the quarterback of the Eagles this year?
Jalen Hurts.
Okay. So the Eagles have proven, you talk about what they've done in the past to try and apply to the future. They've made attempts to upgrade their quarterback position. And when they didn't, they said, well, Jalen's still our guy. We've always said, anybody else can speculate, but you've heard no one from the Eagles say that we don't think Jalen Hurts is our quarterback. He's our quarterback. They did that this past offseason. I'm suggesting they can do that again next offseason.
Yeah,
they can look into trading up. They can see if they can get in a position to take one of those 2 quarterbacks because, I think there's a big drop-off thereafter. If they were to get as high as number 8, and that would guarantee them one of the top 4 quarterbacks, either the 3rd or the 4th, whatever. Is that guy going to be ready to step in and start right away?
Well, and that's where you said we differ. We don't differ as much as you think, because I think that could happen. But here's the difference. Say it's Will Levis, for argument's sake, at number 8 overall, because you're not able to get, and I agree with you, there's no guarantee, and it's probably unlikely you're going to be able to be bad enough to get in a position to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whichever you prefer. Probably going to go 1, 2, if not 1, 2, 1, 3, something of that nature.
Right.
And it's going to be really difficult. So let's focus on Will Levis for sake of argument, 8th overall pick, somewhere in that range. You can probably get up to that point to get him. Everything depends on evaluation. Maybe you like the player, maybe you don't like the player. We always talk about, the Eagles didn't like Justin Fields. They could have had Justin Fields. They didn't like the player, so they went in a different direction. So it always depends on evaluation. But if they like Will Levis and they're able to go up and get him, and you mentioned, he's probably not ready. They still have a 4th year on Jalen Hurts. They might use Jalen Hurts as a bridge quarterback in that 4th year and try to build up his trade value somewhere else. There's always quarterback desperate teams, and then sort of let Levis come along. So I'm not saying he's out of here, because you do have that 4th year and you could let him play out that 4th year. But where I disagree is you can keep kicking the can down the road and assume, all right, what are you going to do again? Trade out and trade back in? What does the 2024 draft look like at the quarterback position? Is it going to be better than this quarterback draft? Well, at least early, and it's way too early, as you mentioned. But people are saying this is a really good class. Maybe it's just about the top 2. Maybe it's about more than the top 2, because I keep hearing a bunch of names as potential first-round picks that go far below Levis and Rattler. You're still talking, there's Richardson from Florida, there's Van Dyke, there's a Stanford kid, Boston College. All of these names, at least some people have had as first-round picks. This is, at least on paper, a really deep quarterback class. You got to seize the moment. The Eagles didn't have the moment this year because it was a weak
It was a
quarterback
weak
draft
class.
class.
If they
Weak
had the
class.
moment, they shouldn't have used it. They were right not to.
And the veterans they weren't able to get. But they tried, but they weren't able to get. Next year, they're probably going to have to seize the moment. They're probably going to have to seize the moment. And if that means drafting a kid at 8 or 10 or even 11 or 12 and going another year with Jalen Hurts, they still have that option. And that's still a possibility. And to sort of, bring them along slowly. That was the original plan with Carson Wentz. People forget, if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't get hurt with that horrific injury 11 days before the start of the regular season, Sam Bradford was going to start for the Philadelphia Eagles. Period. End of sentence. Carson was going to be the third string quarterback on behind Chase Daniel. People forget this.
Yeah, and when they traded Bradford, I swore Daniel was going to be the starter.
Yeah,
I said, all right, well, they'll play Daniel for a good couple of weeks. I thought it was going to be kind of Donovan McNabb revisited. Oh, by the way, who was that guy who filled in till Donovan was ready to play?
Yeah.
That would be Coach Doug Peterson. That's what I believe the Eagles were going to do again when they traded Bradford, which kind of came out of left field, as you correctly point out, just because Teddy Bridgewater got hurt. So I thought, okay, well, first month it's going to be Daniels, and then when they get Carson Wentz up to speed, they'll be ready to put him in there. I knew he was going to play as a rookie, but I didn't think it was going to be week 1.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe when they came out and said, "Yeah, Carson Wentz will be our starter."
Yeah, I remember a lot of people were talking about Chase Daniels being the starter early in the season, and the Eagles kind of said, "You know what? We're probably going to stink anyway. Let's throw him in the deep end of the pool." There's 2 ways you can go about it. They might do that with Will Levis next year if they draft somebody like that, but they have the luxury of saying, we have that extra year on Jalen Hurts. So we don't necessarily differ on that part of it, Jody. Where I think we differ is I think they got to make a move. They got to make a decision this year for all those reasons. You can't just assume you could say, all right, let's kick it the next year. The Eagles will be well versed. They'll know what the 2024 class looks like. Maybe it's great too. I don't know. They should know. But if it's not, they got to act now. They got to act now.
My point is that I would not be surprised if you put those 3 possibilities out there. Jalen Hurts is good enough to merit the contract extension. The Eagles marry themselves to him. Jalen Hurts really doesn't look like a franchise quarterback, and they are uber motivated to get another guy via the draft and or a trade. Or Jalen Hurts is somewhere in the middle. I'm somewhere in the middle, and he's still the quarterback. You're somewhere in the middle, and he's just a placeholder till the guy that they got is their next quarterback. I'm saying there can be an offseason where Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback for the Eagles. They haven't added another quarterback either via a trade. I don't think anybody's there's no free agent that's contract is ending that's going to they're going to have enough cap money to go out and get that type of a guy. No, I think there's I think it's the highest percentage chance that they're going to have Jalen Hurts as their quarterback again without a contract extension in place and dance along that fine line, because they're dancing it now, because we know they did try and get Russell Wilson. We know they did inquire about Deshaun Watson. They didn't really get a chance to get into the poker game, but they sat down at the table before they were told your services are no longer needed.
By the way, there are all sorts of machinations here, Jody. Excuse me. The Eagles might try to do what they do. Maybe Jalen plays well. They try to get him on the team-friendly deal, the $30 million extension, which is team-friendly. And Jalen says, I don't want to do that. I think I deserve more than that. If I hit the open market, I can get more than that. All that kind of thing can play into it as well, the player side of it. But my point from the start has kind of been, you're going to know. You're going to know what the Eagles are doing through reporting behind the scenes, whether they're trying to work out an extension with Jalen Hurts, whether they want to move forward with Jalen Hurts, or if they just say, you know what, we can't get better. We failed to get better. because they don't like any of the quarterbacks in the draft. They're not in a position to get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. The veteran quarterback market is not good. And we'll see, because there's always, you never know what's coming down the pike there. All these things happen in a negative direction. And they say, well, let's let Jalen Hurts play out of his fourth year. You kind of know he's a lame duck anyway, if
Yes.
you're at that point. So that's kind of my larger point of it. The Eagles will make a decision. It might not be an overt decision. He might still be the quarterback, but they will know that this is just a guy. This is a bridge. This is Ryan Fitzpatrick. What's your favorite bridge? We can make that new joke. Brooklyn, Golden Gate, or Jalen Hurts. He's going to be a bridge quarterback. You're going to know that. And he's either going to seize the position, the Eagles are going to want him, or he's going to be a bridge quarterback. That's where I think we are.
Yes, and I can certainly see your point of view there. What the Eagles do is much more important than what the Eagles feel.
Yeah.
And when they've made a decision within their walls, maybe off the record, certain guys start to get insight as to their leanings. Oh, yeah, those are very important. More important is what they actually do on the field. If they don't get another quarter, if they don't make a play, if they don't give him a contract extension, if he is a lame duck quarterback, yeah, you can read into it all you want. I'm just saying that could come to fruition next year. Some people, the very few people, I think, agree with me on this. They think that it'll either be one or the other. They will have gotten their next quarterback via the draft, via trade, via free agency, or they will have inked Jalen Hurts to a contract extension. I still think there's a good chance that in 2023, they're sitting on the fence. They'll be leaning toward one side of the fence or the other. I'll give you that. But if you're on the fence, you're on the fence. And him playing on the last year.
I can't imagine. That would be a very rickety fence, Jody, that is leaning over one way. Maybe it hasn't fallen over completely because, look, the one thing you have in the NFL, if you're starting, right, starting quarterback, starting any position, the luxury of playing time affords you the ability to play well. And if you play well, nobody's taking you off the field. Bottom line, nobody's taking off a successful player off the field. That's the luxury Jalen Hurts has right now. He can go out and win the job. Now, in theory, you're right. He can play mediocre this season. The Eagles aren't able to find the avenue to get better, and they run it back. And we're in the same spot. He still has that luxury of playing time. And all of a sudden, if the light goes on and clicks and then he plays well, magically, could win the job again. I just think that's very unlikely. After two full, remember where we would be. That's two full seasons as a starting quarterback. And all of a sudden, it's going to click in year 3 if it didn't click that well in year 2. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not happened in the past. It's possible. I would say it's very unlikely.
But see, here's again, we're talking about so many hypotheticals here. If they can't get up to number 1 or number 2, if there isn't a good veteran guy, if they're going to take Will Levis at number 8, there's always the possibility that Will Levis can't play at all. That you make the call on a first-round quarterback and he really isn't close to competing, at least with Jalen Hurts, if he's got 2 solid years, no stardom on the rise, no flashes of brilliance, just 2 solid years. That's better than going, all right, we're going to take a step back and we're hoping we're going to take 2 forward. We know we're going to take 2 forward. We're hoping we're going to take 2 forward. Although it doesn't happen often, I think the Eagles might say this is the better of the 2 options. Let's stick with solid and not have to worry about, are we going to superstardom?
Well, because remember at that point, and this is really the only part we differ on. At that point, you're truly down. You kick the can as far as you can go, and I'm talking about not this season, 2023. That's the 4th year, right? So if he's where he is now, same type of quarterback, that's still going to get him $25-30 million. that's the going rate. There's going to be some quarterback desperate team as a veteran quarterback. And then you start thinking about, well, we don't want to pay him that. And then you gotta redo it anyway. And that's why you draft the quarterback. Then you have the quarterback on the cost-effective rookie deal for 5 years if you draft him in the first round. That 5th year, not quite as cost-effective, but you get the point. And you have that year, you have that buffer year. He's already in the system. So if you draft Will Levis and let Jalen Hurts play out his 4th year, you let him compete. If Levis isn't ready, Jalen Hurts handles the job for 1 year. At that point, it's over, right? Because he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid to a certain level. You hope to trade him. You hope to do something of that nature. And then you start over with the more cost-effective rookie deal that allows you to build up around the quarterback, at least on the short term, for a couple seasons, 3 seasons. But you're right. If you fail with the draft pick, you fail. But you're in the same spot. Remember, you only have 12 more months. In your best case Jody McDonald scenario, you're still going to have to pay Jalen Hurts as a veteran. He's not going to, you can maybe go, if he plays poorly, remember, and say you can get him for 1 year Jameis Winston money. Well, the Eagles don't want that. They're trying to stay away from that. If they keep going that route, that's not where they want to be. So, there's a lot of hypotheticals, but
I think that's almost an impossible situation. The Eagles sign him, but for less than starter money. And no, if he's good enough, he gets to the 4th year and they carry him on a rookie 4-year deal, and he's a lame duck quarterback. And oh, by the way, the light goes on. Now we're talking about a franchise tag. And I do think that's a possibility. Small, but a possibility. More so than they would re-sign Jalen Hurts for the 25th best starting quarterback money in the league. That I don't think is going to happen. It'll be one or the other. They'll go Carson Strong before they'll go Jalen Hurts on his 5th year in the league on a $25 million deal. No, either he's going to be good enough and they're going to try and get a contract done. If they can't, you got the safety net of the franchise tag, or they'll just move on. Jalen, you can go free agent. We're going to give Carson Strong a shot here. If they can't draft the next guy, they'll put Carson Strong out there for a year and hope his knee holds up, and he might be better than Jalen Hurts ever is. I don't think they'll sign him to a compromise starting quarterback money.
Yeah, either do I. I just threw it out there because the Eagles don't want to do that. The Eagles don't want to be in that position. They don't want to be like other teams who would do that. Sometimes you have to do it if you keep bailing. I mean, the Eagles at wide receiver are a perfect example of bailing. And then all of a sudden, you get it right with Devontae Smith. But people kind of forget the reason Devontae Smith is here. There's so many butterfly effects. I remember I asked Doug Peterson once about the butterfly effect, Jody. He had no idea what I was talking about.
Really?
Yeah, no idea. No idea. I had to explain it to him in the middle of a press conference. But anyway, there's so many, if they hit on Jalen Reagor, Devontae Smith isn't here. Maybe Justin Fields is here. We say the Eagles didn't want Justin Fields. Well, maybe they didn't want Justin Fields because they didn't think he was
maybe
the right moment.
Maybe they didn't want Justin Fields because they thought that highly of Devonta Smith.
Yeah, exactly.
They just wanted to. They thought they had him as their 2nd or 3rd ranked guy on the board, and they moved up to number 10 to get him because they couldn't believe he was
and by the way, if Patrick Surtain didn't go earlier and J.C. Horn, they'd be here instead of Devontae Smith. So there's always a small line of things happening in this league, and even different positions can affect other positions because you have to go. And we all thought, man, the Eagles are going to have to. They didn't get. I was just writing about this on JAKIB Sports as well. People already forget that. We talk about they forget the Eagles going after Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, Jody. People forget they went after Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk and Allen Robertson and Robert Woods. If they get Robert Woods, he's a nice player, right? And he's not A.J. Brown, He's not AJ Brown.
He was
All of a sudden,
available before we knew that AJ Brown was a
yeah,
trade candidate. I wanted to see the Eagles get Robert Woods.
exactly. A lot of people did. And I, by the way, I wouldn't have criticized them at the time if they were able to get him. But, you know, that door gets shut. So all 4 doors get shut. Then you got to go looking for another door. And all of a sudden you end up with AJ Brown. But the Eagles had to pay a penalty for all those failures. And the penalty was a first-round pick and $25 million contract because they bailed on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor. All these things have a butterfly effect moving forward. And same thing happens at the quarterback position and how you're going to evaluate this particular class. But, man, I don't know. You're trying to get a quarterback in 2022. You're trying to get a quarterback in 2023, and you're unable to do it, and you're kicking the can. I don't know how long the Eagles can keep doing that. And they've been very successful making people forget that they wanted to replace Jalen Hurts this year. People don't like that. They don't like it. They would have replaced him only for certain people. And I think, by the way, that's a compliment if you think about it, because they weren't thinking about the Jimmy Garoppolos and the Baker Mayfields of the world. And Baker's still available. They don't have any interest. Jimmy's still available. We'll see when he gets healthy. They don't have any interest in those guys. You can argue they've been more successful at their height than Jalen Hurts. So they like Jalen Hurts, but they also know that's probably the wrong word. So that's why I stopped himself. They also think there's a ceiling, and that ceiling is not going to be Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson or a superstar talent quarterback. And they want people to forget that, but they've already essentially stipulated to that fact by their actions.
Agreed. All right, let's get a timeout in here. Mike Sealski, lead columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer, is going to join us in hour number 2. You mentioned quarterback who is available on the open market right now that we believe the Eagles have no interest in. I'll go a step further. One of the more respected football columnists, Mike Florio, wrote a column on Pro Football Talk over the weekend that kind of surprised me on 2 different levels about quarterback situations around the National Football League. We'll dive into it when we come back here next. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. You got your Mac and Mac guys on Birds 365.